Did you ever imagine that one day there'd be a fully electric Vauxhall Astra? Well, here it is. This EV shares all its engineering with its close cousin, the Peugeot E-308, and like that fellow Stellantis Group model, is available in hatch and sports tourer estate form, with smart looks but quite ambitious asking prices.
We wondered what we might get here. The smaller Corsa electric hatch does, after all, feel rather dynamically compromised over the equivalent combustion version. Fortunately, that's far less of an issue in this case, helped by the fact that the Vauxhall Opel designers, aided by the relatively light EMP2 V3 platform, have managed to keep weight in check. This EV Astra actually only weighs 68 kilograms more than the plug-in hybrid version. Mind you, that still means a gross weight of 2,100 kilograms, which doesn't help the car's slightly over-firm ride over pock-marked surfaces. As with this car's identically engineered Stellantis Group close cousin, the Peugeot E-308, you get a 54 kilowatt-hour battery pack, powering a front-mounted 152 bhp electric motor, putting out a healthy 270 newton-meters of torque. This kind of output ought to be enough for a car of this size, but because of that plump curb weight, the initially rapid start-off punch tails off pretty rapidly. The 62 mile-an-hour benchmark finally reached in just 9.2 seconds on the way to a modest top speed of 105 miles an hour. Through the corners, you'll feel the extra weight of that big battery, but as usual in an EV, its central low-down positioning minimises the downside by lowering the centre of gravity. There are no steering wheel paddles to alter brake regeneration, but Vauxhall does provide a transmission B setting which provides some of that. And there are 3 driving modes: Sport, Normal and Eco, with the non-sport settings delivering a little less power in order to preserve driving range, which is quoted at between 252 and 260 miles, which isn't especially noteworthy by current standards. What about charging? Well, the AC onboard charger speed is 11 kilowatts, and this Astra can DC charge at up to 100 kilowatts, a bit behind the latest class standard. If you can manage to DC charge at that speed, you'd achieve a 20 to 80% charge in 26 minutes. At home, attached to a typical 7.4 kilowatt AC wall box, you would need 8 hours, a figure you could reduce to 5 hours 45 minutes with an 11 kilowatt 3-phase supply. This tailgate E-badge is the only external giveaway that you're looking at an all-electric version of this L-Series Astra. Plus, of course, the lack of a tailpipe. Otherwise, there are no visual clues at all, unless you bend down and look really closely, in which case you might see the 54 kilowatt-hour battery pack bringing the underside of the car a fraction closer to the ground. Like the other available electrified Astras, the hybrid and the plug-in hybrid, this one comes in a choice of 2 body styles, either this 5-door hatch or the usual sports tourer estate. Of course, if you're able to look beneath the sharply creased clamshell bonnet, it's all very different indeed, though it's a touch disappointing that there's any sort of powertrain underneath here at all, given that some notable rivals use this area to offer extra luggage space, or at least a convenient place for your charging leads. It's a bit less distinctive from the side, the profile view marked by the pronounced forward rake of this C-pillar. In the interests of controlling consumption, you might expect an EV model to have smaller wheels than its engine equivalent. Actually, the opposite is true here. All Astra Electrics have the large diamond-cut 18-inch alloy rims that with a combustion Astra you'd have to stretch to the very priciest trim level to get. There are no changes inside to distinguish this full battery model, apart from the expected EV differences on the 10-inch instrument and infotainment screens. Look carefully at the instrument display and you'll note a power eco charge meter to the left and a battery capacity readout on the right. The differences with this centre screen are harder to spot, mostly concerned with an added energy section. You're going to need to be a fan of shiny dark piano black plastic to like the futuristic cabin vibe and To be honest, we're not completely convinced by some elements of material quality. But it's all been very well screwed together by the German Rüsselsheim factory, and the dual 10-inch displays do a pretty good job of telling you what you need to know. The instrument screen, configurable via the end of the steering wheel stalks. You sit lower down than in this model's crossover class rivals, which makes it all feel a bit sportier. And we particularly like the seats above base trim. The driver's chair posture has been designed for certification approval from the German Action Gesunder Rücken EV organisation, who campaign across Europe for aids to healthier backs. There's plenty of cabin storage as well. Okay, time to take a look in the rear, and the door opening isn't that big. And once inside, it doesn't feel at all EV-like. Electric vehicles that use platforms only designed for electric vehicles almost always have palatial levels of rear seat leg space. Those EVs that sit on platforms also designed for combustion power don't, and this is one of those. Vauxhall claims that there's 680mm of leg room, 10mm more than in the Peugeot E-308, but it still feels a touch more cramped than the class norm. Finally, let's take a look out back. Now, you raise the rear hatch by pressing on this central Griffin emblem. Using a composite material for this tailgate doesn't seem to have made it that much lighter, and there's no powered option. But once everything's raised, well, unlike with the smaller Corsa Electric, which matches the boot capacity of its combustion counterpart, this EV Astra's trunk is just as compromised as it is in plug-in hybrid form. The usual combustion Astra, 422-litre total, falling to 352 here because of the battery below the cargo area floor. Nor do you get that combustion model's useful adjustable height floor. With the Sports Tourer estate version, there's a 548-litre boot, down from 608 litres normally, and there's 600mm of load height. With the back seat folded, an Astra Electric hatch will offer you 1,268 litres of capacity. For the Astra Electric Sports Tourer estate, the seat's folded figure is 1,553 litres. Ultimately, of course, the reality is that this is a less radical new electric take on Astra motoring and more merely a differently flavoured Peugeot E-308. But there's nothing wrong with that, and as with that Peugeot, what you get here is a refreshing change from all the SUVs and crossovers that usually crowd out this segment. With this car, Vauxhall's seeking the sweet spot between volume and profit, and that's unlikely to lie with the kind of sales leadership we'd once have expected an Astra to have. But this is a different kind of Astra from a different kind of Vauxhall marque, with a very different future ahead of it.